everybody, and good morning. Welcome out to Board Game Breakfast. Who is this imposter, you might be asking? Well, I am wearing no hat, no tie, no suspenders. It is I, Chris Yee. Tom is up in Orlando area this morning. You might be asking why? Well, because we have a little event going on over there called the Dice Tower Retreat. I'll get into that in just a second. I want to start off first and foremost with some exciting news for, let's go with a contest. The sponsor Pandasaurus Games has available 2 copies for the USA, 2 copies of the game Trek 12. If you'd like to win that contest, go ahead and email us at contest@dicetower.com. And in the subject line, include the word climb. C-L-I-M-B. Climb. Pronounced that way, I think, right? Climb. Mike confirms. Answer this question. Which online gaming platform has Trek 12 available to play? You can find the answer to that on the internet. Do some searching. Google, Yahoo, AltaVista, Netscape Navigator. Ask Jeeves. Whatever sources you have available to you, you can use to try and find find the answer to that. Email us contest@dicetower.com. All right. So yeah, 2 copies within the USA. Now, let's talk really quick about this week here, right? You'll have a full week, don't you worry. But us here in the office will be heading up to Orlando for the Dice Tower Retreat. It'll be five-ish days of fantastic gaming. There are a few final tickets available if you happen to maybe find yourself impulsively buying flights to the Orlando area, or maybe you're already in the Orlando area. You can search on tabletop.events under Dice Tower Retreat Orlando, and you'll be able to scoop up the last few tickets if you'd like. Feel free to join us. It is a fantastic time, some of the friendliest gaming that you'll ever have. The Dice Tower, of course, has other events going on. The Cruise, Dice Tower East in the summer, Dice Tower West in the spring of next year. So make sure to look out for those. Now, I know what you've came here for, what you have come here for, and that is to see some excellent contributors. I predict that 4 contributors from now will make me belly laugh. Mike, is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we'll never find out unless we get started. Let's jump to some contributors.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella here from Maple University and the Dice Tower. Now, what do we have here is Squatter, an Australian farming game.
Yes, it is. It's the 60th anniversary of this game, and it's often called Australia's answer to Monopoly, and it sort of holds that same place in people's houses, and it's got a very familiar sort of board as well.
Monopoly.
Looks very Monopoly-like. And yes, it has many of the things that we as hobby gamers hate about Monopoly, but it's also there's also a good underlying economic game in this. So this is a game where you start with 5 bad pastures and 15 pens of sheep, and you need to get up to 5 irrigated pastures and 30 head of sheep. And you can do that by gaining money. You can gain money by just building up sheep and getting a check for your wool every year. But the more sheep you hold, the more risk you are of drought. If you land on a drought space, then you have to sell half your sheep at a loss. So you can also play the market. You can sell sheep when you land on a stock sale, or buy them, and you'll always sell for more than you buy, and you'll build up your money that way. You can hedge against drought risks by buying haystacks. You can increase the value of your wool check by getting stud rams, which will give you better wool. So there's this whole underlying economic game which is built on top of what at the time would have been a very typical and very familiar Monopoly.
Have you actually played Squatter? Do we even play it again?
We haven't played it. I have played it since I got this one from an op shop for $4 not too long ago. But you know, I see there's elements in here that could play in sort of a modern style. It's just an old style game.
So that's it. Squatter, let us know if you have played it.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, happy breakfast. Today we are looking at... Oh, it's a bit of a chunky box, got a lot of things in there. Splendor. Splendor. This is a 2 to 4 player game by Space Cowboys, card drafting and set collection.
Yeah, this is a bit of a classic game. I don't know when it came out, 2000 something or other. if you've not played it, which we hadn't, strangely enough, it's been on our shelf of shame for yonks. And we have got to it eventually because obviously you should play these classic games. Really nice game. So basically, it's a card drafting game, a set collecting game, and you've got these lovely poker chip style kind of jewels that you're exchanging for victory points, basically.
Yeah, good quality chips as well,
Yeah, really nice to handle. So basically you just take a couple of chips and you store up a stock of chips, and then you buy mines with those chips, and some of the mines have victory points, and the higher level mines you buy, the more victory points you get. First one to get 14 points is the winner.
And you've got just building your setup constantly,
it's very similar to Century Spice Road if you played that kind of thing. So you're just upgrading your sort of your cards, basically, your hand.
Really good.
Really nice game, very satisfying to play. You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
I know. Old classic game. Find it, play it. Splendor. Thanks, guys. Check this one out and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
I see the chat asking, what's wrong with that Splendor cover? My question is, no, it's not really a question. That Splendor cover looks better than the man looking at the gemstone for sure, but maybe that's just me. I like that nice panoramic view. Okay, so anyway, I was wrong. It took me one contributor segment to get a good belly laugh. I can assure you that Squatter is not available in the Dice Tower Retreat library, if that helps sell any tickets. Let's look at a game from 20 years ago. I have had the fortunate pleasure to once play a game called Outburst 2. This is an ode to the growth and development of party game design. Outburst 2, as you can tell by this absolutely amazing cover over here, is a game that is it's past its prime, one might say. The idea of it is that you have a red clear plastic kind of holder, right? And you put one of those cards into it that has all the blue dots over it, so that when you slide it in, or it has red dots all over it, you slide it in, you can see the secret blue text behind it. High-tech stuff. I actually really like that. I'm a sucker for that type of stuff. But that's my favorite part about Outburst, because then it reveals a question. You're broken into two teams, and you ask your team the question that it says on there, like name 10 parts of a computer. And the team just starts to shout out answers at you, and your little screen thing has a little like click boxes for if the team says the things that are on there. You don't give any hints, you don't give any clues, you don't particularly do anything. You just have to click off these little boxes if your team guesses the right things. This is definitely, a clunker of a game. It's fine, but what I do adore and I love about this, besides the audacious and bodacious cover, if I may be fair, the thing I love about this is that if you can find this game in a thrift shop or a charity shop or one of those Goodwill, like donation kind of stores, you can find some old copies of this and maybe find an even older copy of, say, Outburst 1, the original. The original is always better than the sequel. And just have a really fun time where you're playing this party game with questions and clues that are way past their date. The top 10 parts of a computer, if I remember correctly, did not even include mouse. And so if you want to have a really good heart of time, do some of these trivia questions that are just so dated. So I don't know, I look at something like this, and I know that there's lots of bad party games that come out, but I also revel in the fact that there are so many good party games that get published these days that are so much better. I know people kind of got codenames out where they played it so much and they played it too much, but I think that kind of speaks to how good of a design Codenames really was, especially when you compare it to something like this from 20 years ago. So that's my thoughts on Outburst 2 with its bodacious cover. Let's move on to some more contributors.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Nick Traeger with Meeples on the Ground, and I want to go ahead and talk to you today about some board game room accessories, things that help me out while I play board games within my gaming space. And I would love to hear, after I talk about my list, what things that you like to have in your gaming space. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So the first thing I like to have in my gaming space is a dice tray. Dice trays are nice to just keep all the dice in one place, especially if you have to pass them around in certain games. And next, I like pen and paper. This isn't necessarily used all the time, but when you need a pen and paper during a board game session, then they really come in handy and are really awesome to have. And so next, I want to go ahead and talk about card holders. Now, I like to organize my cards, and sometimes in my hand, it's awesome. It's easy, but sometimes it's nice to just place cards in card holders. It's not super necessary, but it has just been nice to have within playing some of my card games at the gaming table. And last but not least, we'll go ahead and talk about bit bowls. Bit bowls are amazing to have, especially if a game has a lot of bits and there's no real organization, no bit bowls from the games. I know some games include them, but when you don't have them in the game and you have some on the side where you pick them up from online, or like for us, we picked ours up at thrift stores. They are really helpful and just keep the game organized. And then when you need to go ahead and hand someone some bits, that you can just pick up the entire bowl and not just try to fiddle with a piece here, a piece there. So that's my list. I would love to know in the comments / the live chat of what gaming accessories you like to have in your gaming space. And yeah. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Hey there everyone, it's Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes with my segment From the Page to the Table, where I pair books and board games together and we listen to my neighbors do their laundry. It's great, it's fine. Today we're going to do another classic. I'm on like a classic kick, and we're going to do Henry James and the Ambassadors. This is the book that James considered to be his penultimate book, his favorite of all the ones that he had done, and it's really James at the height of his writing power. Here we have some Americans who have ended up in Paris in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the American family is kind of curious what's going on with these folks over in Paris. They're concerned that they're being corrupted because it's Paris in the late 1800s. Lots of big change has gone on there. And instead we find folks who are very refined and have really blended in and become one with the city of Paris. So also taking place at that time is Chronicles of Crime, 1900. This is one of the newer standalone expansions, standalone games from Lucky Duck Games. Here in Chronicles of Crime 1900, we have a Paris that has experienced a lot of change. They had the World's Fair not that super long ago. The great architectural revision and street revision of Paris had happened again somewhat recently as well. And we have a Paris where new industry is coming in and again, a time of really great change. Even the way that you are investigating crime is quite changed as compared to the 1400 version, of course. I love the cast of characters that are in this game. I love that you really do feel like you are walking in the streets of Paris. And then you would maybe see some of the folks from James's The Ambassadors in there. That is all for this week, friends. Happy breakfast.
All right, so what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? Well, I just told you earlier that the whole crew here is going to be out of town at the Orlando retreat, but fear not, we have an entire week of content preloaded and ready to go. We do this for y'all. Unfortunately, that means that we won't be doing any live streaming, of course, so none of our live shows are going to be happening this week. Crowd surfing, for example, we covered 2 weeks worth of stuff last time. So this is today, this and the Q&A that is scheduled for noon today are going to be the last things scheduled for live. However, the moving truck in which we load up the entire library full of games for the retreat does take priority, so it may be rescheduled, it may be canceled if worst comes to worst. The Q&A part, yes, not the rest of this broadcast. I'm out! No, so the mic is scheduled for the Q&A, so hopefully everything goes well so that can happen. But what else? Today, I'm putting up a behind-the-scenes video about what kind of a typical week, work week looks like here in the office. And I tried to film a week that was, not say abandoning ship for the retreat, immediately. So you can kind of see a little bit more behind the scenes stuff and other people like that. We've got a couple of reviews going up. Mike has two pretty namey roll-in rights. Namey, is that the right word? Big name roll-in rights to them. The Pandasaurus Dinosaur Island Rar and right. You have to pronounce it that way. It's required by law, as well as the Stonemaier Games Rolling Realms. We've got what should be Vagrant Song by Z going up this week, which is kind of a big campaign game. It has a very kooky, atmospheric look to it. I'll have people I know have been clamoring for the review of Hero Hockey, which we played live on one of our kind of testing Friday game days. So Hero Hockey, Marshmallow Test. There's plenty of good reviews coming up, and people enjoy those, of course. And then come Sunday, there's going to be a Foursquare's review of Unsettled. This is the new game by Orange Nebula, who brought us Vindication. So we'll have a four opinions, four-way review for that one. So unless I'm seeing anything else important, there's a couple of things. Tom's reviewing Hanamakoji finally, which I guess he'd never done before. So that's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Happy breakfast, everyone. Today I'm here to talk to you about Mindbug. I kind of was going to pass it by until I noticed that Richard Garfield is one of the designers. Kind of what makes it interesting? Well, yes, you're taking a random 20 from the deck of just over 40 monsters in play at one time. But that's been done before. Then there is the Mindbug twist. Each player starts with 2 mind bugs, and there's no way from this deck to get mind bugs back, and that is where it all starts to be interesting. So when you play a card, your opponent, if they have any left, has the opportunity to mind bug it. So when you're about to play the card down, you show it to their opponent, and they have the chance to basically mind bug and say, no, I'm going to play that card instead of you. And well, that means Mindbug turns into a game of mind games, because you're looking at your hand of cards and you're like, well, this is a brilliant card, but if I play that, it's just going to get Mindbugged and used against me. So do I play this kind of really good sounding creature and hope it gets Mindbugged, but then you're like, well, if it doesn't get Mindbugged, it's kind of got through and I'm happy with that. And it means you could start with a hand of really great sounding cards and come out of it worse off because your opponent has managed to pick the best ones. Anyway, that is Mindbug, a fun, fast little sort of, not filler, but 2-player game, card game that you can just, hits the table, play a couple of. Anyway, until next time, have a great breakfast, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.
So I want to talk about a topic that has a bit of controversy around, not real controversy, more like, game mechanism controversy. I just don't understand, right? There's a lot of disparaging remarks. There's a lot of fake accusations, false accusations that the Dice Tower hates semi-co-op. And I wanted to clear the air that I won't speak for everyone, but I love semi-co-op. I think semi-co-op is a very delightful comic strip. It is it's a weekly web comic that Heinz and Rachel do, and they're kind of the main characters in their own thing. Mike, one sec, we're live. So they just kind of draw themselves in these funny, quirky little situations, and it's all that very self-referential, kind of self-deprecating board game humor. And I appreciate that. I think that it's something that I do get a good chuckle out of. I get a good laugh from it. Look, I know that there's some controversy. Maybe they're not the funniest comic strip out there. They're no Calvin and Hobbes. But I really enjoy.
I don't think that's what people mean by
Mike, what?
I don't think that's what people mean by semi-co-op. They mean the game mechanism, semi-co-op.
Like semi-cooperative games?
Yes, that's what people are confused about. They don't think that it works.
Oh, Oh, no, I hate semi-cooperative games. I've yet to play one that really works. Is that what we're talking about, Mike? Okay, I love the comic strip. I don't like semi-cooperative games. I'll speak for Tom here, where no, I don't think any of us in the office really have had a great experience with one. Okay. This makes all those Reddit threads make more sense now. No, I don't really care for semi-cooperative games. You know what it feels like to me? I know that there's a mentality with them where if one person's winning too much, then the other people at the table can make the whole group lose. I don't like that. Or if everyone's doing really well, but they're doing too well compared to one person, and that one person has no chance to win, then that person can make the whole table lose. That's an in-game flipping the table. I don't really care for that, right? And I think that maybe it's I know it's really up to taste. You can enjoy semi-cooperative games, that's fine. But I don't really care for that part. Now, there's a few, I'll mention this. There's a few games that I feel like do the spirit of semi-cooperative better than most like actual semi-co-op games that I've played. And the first one of that is a competitive game where there's one winner at the end, but it forces some working together, and that's the Between Two Castles, Between Two Cities games. I feel like that works where you're kind of doing some cooperation, if you will, with the players next to you, but you're still trying to do the best at the end of the game, and I feel like that kind of touches in that spirit of it without the mean negative parts of it. And I also like the pirate game Forgotten Waters by Plaid Hat, because that's a fully cooperative game. You win or lose together, but it has enough joyful, playful kind of moments where you get to be selfish. You get to pick the best tasks for yourself and get the best treasures for yourself and increase your own story arc better for yourself and bury more treasure than other players. And you stick them with the last tasks like cleaning out the dinghy and whatnot. And I think that kind of touches a little bit into that spirit of semi-co-op where you're working together but still looking out for yourself. That's the type of stuff that I would have much more fun doing than playing a game where I could tank everybody else at the table if I wasn't having a great time. So with that being said, and this complete embarrassment on the part of Mike DeLisio, let's move on. I love semi-co-op, the comic strip. Let's move on to some...
Hey everyone! Today on the Plastic Canvas we're turning Father Gascoigne from Bloodborne from this into this in just 2 minutes. Hey everyone, Matt here from the Plastic Canvas, and today on 2 Minute Mini we are painting Father Gascoigne. Now, a few episodes ago, I painted the tough guy from Aetherfields, and one thing I talked about there is that when you have a character with lots of very, very similar colours, especially when they're dark colours, that the 2D artwork doesn't necessarily easily translate to a smaller 3D mini. Because if you paint lots of very, very similar colours really, really close together, by the time the mini goes into the middle of the table and everyone's looking at it from the distance of sitting around the edge, those details can really blur together and become really, really hard to distinguish. And that was going to be a very clear problem when painting Father Gascoigne, because in his artwork, he is basically wearing black just from head to toe. And so I could tell straight away that I wasn't going to be able to paint him the same as in the artwork because all of those details were just going to blur together. So you can see with his cloak there, I painted it in more of a dark blue, which was just going to make it easier to build some contrast with all of the folds in the clothes so that those details could stand out a little bit more. And then the scarf that's wrapped around his neck, I picked that out in red just so that there was some sort of a contrasting color that was a little bit brighter, just to help bust up those darker colors a little bit. And the other part that I put a good bit of time into was painting the axe head here, because this is my very, very first go at painting a blade of some description with the NMM technique or non-metallic metal. And I was really, really happy with how it came up. Wasn't perfect, but a pretty good first attempt. And you can see here that I painted both forms of Father Gascoigne because there is the transform version of him, and I just used the same color schemes for both. But if you would like to see the full version of this video, where I go through each of these steps in greater detail, you can head over to my channel, The Plastic Canvas, and I hope you enjoy your breakfast.
Oh, yeah, so I see some comments talking about, semi-cooperative game. What kind of falls in the definition of semi-co-op? Yeah, that's one of the other things, too, is it's so tricky, right? Is Shadows over Camelot or Hidden Betrayer games and stuff. I think a lot of those can be really fun, and they're not true semi-co-op, and neither are the games that I mentioned, but I just wanted to rant for a little bit. I'm here to review something different. As I've done in a lot of the previous times that I've hosted Breakfast, I've talked about really good children's animation shows that are also really enjoyable for adults to watch along with their kids, or to just kind of watch on your own. So today I'm going to talk about an animated miniseries from Cartoon Network that was called Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall is really fantastic for this time of year, that kind of autumn. We try to watch it around Halloween, but you can watch it kind of whenever in the fall time. And I really enjoy the show. It has two brothers, Greg and Wirt, with just absolutely strange names. But Greg and Wirt are kind of lost in this unknown forest. That's the premise of it. And the show starts off with you seeing them kind of in the middle of the action, kind of just in the middle of very little explanation. They're just walking in the woods, and they're talking about being lost in the woods. And I like that because you start to kind of understand more about these characters as the show progresses. It's a mini-series, so I think all in all, the total runtime, there's maybe 10-ish episodes, so I think it's between an hour and a half and 2 hours. You can watch this episodically to just kind of enjoy a little bit each day, or you can binge it and it won't take you very long. It has a very fascinating story. The world that they inhabit is so bizarre. It's very spooky. The first episode has a pretty scary monster in it. And I tend to like kids' cartoon shows that also have some horror-ish elements to them, because I know that it's not going to get too graphic or weird. It's not going to get beyond my realm of taste. But it also builds up some excitement in a way that I think, it works really well with this show. And my kid, who admittedly can sometimes be a scaredy cat, was really enthralled with the characters in the world, so that even though there are scary monsters and strange, spooky things going on, she didn't mind it. She was more interested in how the characters were going to clever their way out of the situation. I think that the show's really a kind of a throwback in a lot of ways. The animation style looks a bit like those 1940s cartoons, the same type of things that you'll see Cuphead kind of based off of. And there's in fact an episode where they go to a village that is completely in that same art style, that Cuphead, zany cartoon, dancing around singing kind of way. And every episode they run into a different problem and they kind of solve it, but there is some overall character growth that's really delightful. And as you get to the penultimate episode, there are some really nice reveals that make the whole series start to make more sense. And so it's one of those kind of things where it's like a movie like The Prestige, where once you understand the bigger scope of things, it makes it so fun to go back to the first episode and rewatch it. And so I think that that's a great trick with like a kind of a limited run series like this, is to really make it exciting to watch it again. And once you know the bigger context of what's happening, you start to see little details that are very fun and very clever, and that they kind of sprinkled like breadcrumbs along the way. So Over the Garden Wall, fantastic show to enjoy around this season, and that's one that I really enjoy. And that's my thoughts on it. Let's jump to some more contributors.
Hi everybody, I'm Doug Jr. from Doug and Doug Gaming, and you're watching A Fellowship of Meeples. We'd all love to sit around playing games all day, but the reality is we can't usually do that. Happened to me the other night. I had to say no to a game night because work got in the way. But that's where the gaming app can come in handy. If you can find a few moments, you can play an app on your phone, play a board game right there on your phone. And over the next few weeks, I want to talk to you about my top 3 favorite board game apps. Number 1, and probably the app that I play the most, is Onirim. Or Onirim. I've never quite known how to pronounce it. Onirim is a solo card game where you have to work against the game to gather the 8 door cards before the deck runs out. Sometimes nightmare cards will show up, and you have to get rid of these either by discarding a key card, or perhaps by discarding a door card that you've already opened, or you can discard the 5 cards on the table, or even the cards that are in your hand. So in other words, nightmare cards are bad. You have to get rid of them. So why do I love playing the Onirim app? Well, number one, it's just really addictive and it's fairly quick, so I can squeeze it into that small time frame. But also, this game has a lot of shuffling in it. And I don't mind shuffling cards, I'm fairly good at it, but it's really got a lot of shuffling. So I actually prefer playing this on the phone than I do playing it on the table. And that's very rare for me. But if you haven't tried this, I would highly recommend trying the Onirim app. It's a very simple, very quick game, but it's a lot of fun and somewhat addictive. So next week, I'll be talking about another app that I really enjoy. So I'll see you then on a Fellowship of Meeples. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye, guys. Hi, Dad.
Hey, sweetie. Oh, I have a snack on the table for you.
Thanks. What? These aren't snacks. Dad, these are just games.
Crushed it. Hey folks, and welcome to a special episode of Tabletop Toolbox. You may recall a couple of months ago I reviewed some disc golf themed board games, and one of them was called Final 9, a card game by Australian-based indie publisher Monkey Mind Games. Now I ended up chatting with the owner of Monkey Mind Games, and he volunteered to lend me some pre-production copies of his next crowdfunding project, the Monkey Mind Snack Box minigame series. They're here, and we're going to take a look at them today, which makes this the first of hopefully many videos in the series I'm going to call It's Coming Out Soon. You know what? I'm going to work on that, and I will get back to you. In these 4 boxes are small, lightweight games with some unique themes and emphasis on casual play and push your luck elements. The first is Irukandji, a game about racing to the shore from the coastal waters of Australia. 2 to 3 players continue racing until someone reaches 2 points, but you want to avoid swimming into the bloom of Irukandji jellyfish. Up next is Slingshot, a very pretty dice-checking game where 2 to 4 players try to match flight sequences across 9 planets. Now Slingshot adds asymmetrical player powers as well as optional asteroid cards which can provide rewards or consequences if certain symbols are rolled at the start of a player's turn. The third title is Skatepark, a uniquely challenging game with some hand and resource management, where 2 to 3 players are trying to perform wicked tricks on their board in order to become master of the skate park. Now this is the only game without an optional variant included, but you'll find that there's already plenty here to think about in this game. And the last order up is Chimichangas and Tacos, a drafting game where 2 to 3 players are trying to complete Mexican street food recipes from their food truck. Now the base game here involves some straightforward tile drafting and set collection. However, the optional condiment tokens allows for some creative and significant take-that elements in a game that, worst of all, might make you kind of hungry. Now, of course, everything that you've seen here today has been pre-production, so things may change throughout the campaign, which is active right now on Kickstarter through November of 2021. You can also visit Monkey Mind's website for more information. That's mnkymnd.com. And on that note, I'm gonna go get some tacos. Cheers.
All right, well that has been another successful board game breakfast despite my best efforts to tank everything. We'd like to once again remind you that there is a sponsored giveaway contest at the beginning of the video. You can go ahead and watch that. And as I said, we'll be out of the office for the rest of this week. Full week of content and everything. We anticipate that Mike will have his Q&A at noon today. Just as a reminder that if that doesn't happen, we apologize. We're going to be loading up the truck, getting everything ready for the retreat. I hope to see some of you there. I think there's some chatter that maybe even some of the folks in the chat this morning will be there. Feel free to say hello to us. That's what they're there for. We want to have a really good time and get to face with the people who want to come out. And if you're not able to make it, hopefully in the future you'll be able to make it to another one of our Dice Tower events. Anyway, that has been breakfast. My name is Chris Yee. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.